So, who in their mind would think our small planet should have a nuclear war? Idiots like Trump, I guess? I don't know. Over someone who's shooting rockets into the ocean and they're not going nowhere, right? If someone is threatening you and saying, I'm going to send a rocket to Guam, right? Yeah, it barely goes over Japan and falls into the sea. Is that a serious threat, or is someone trying to bait you, right? There's a difference there too, right? And let me see something on the internet. I'm not sure about this, right? Anyone could be wrong, you, me, and you. I'm just saying theories like the guy in the Pelican Brief or something, right? With Julie Roberts and Mel Gibson, right? So I'll just give two possibilities of every theory I have, right? Now, one might be true, but it's not supposed to be, right? Because no idiot wants World War III. Hopefully not even Trump. Unless he wants us to go all the way back to the beginning or something, right? Then we have to go through it all again, idiot. You know what I mean there? You know what I mean there. That's no justification to attack any country, period. Not us, them, or them, us, right? But if it's not even going anywhere and falling into the sea, that's not a real threat either. Can you not tell when two bullies are arguing with each other, which is the bigger bully? No. That's the question there too, right? All it seems like to me is Trump and Boone are just having like two bullies in the schoolyard, right? Taunting each other to start a war, right? Either way. So let's see. I got a question. Did North Korea threaten the U.S. first? Just sort of a question. They've obviously been sort of threatening us a little bit, but anyway. Here's a good one. Let's see some of the things. Trump warns U.S. may have to totally destroy North Korea. How not to threaten North Korea, the Atlantic. Alright. How not to threaten North Korea. The country has conducted its sixth nuclear test. Let me read this a little bit. I'm just trying to figure out what's going on. I don't know what's going on, alright. And this is new information to me, too. I don't know everything. First thing you gotta admit if you want to run a country anyway, you don't know everything. And you could be being fed bad intel. You never know. You never know. The country has conducted 6 nuclear tests. Is Donald Trump committing deterrence malpractice, right? President Trump is establishing a reputation for himself at the threatener-in-chief, as Trump has said that if Congress won't fund his border wall, he will shut down the federal government, a threat he quickly backpedaled. He has declared his own finances a red line in Robert Mueller's Russian investigation, vaguely threatening to fire him or Attorney General Jeff Sessions if the investigation gets too personal. And then there's North Korea. As Hurricane Harvey ravaged the Gulf Coast 6,000 miles away, Kim Jong-un sent a ballistic missile flying right over Japan. America's treaty ally, and followed that up with its sixth nuclear test. It was a slap in the face to both the president and his Secretary of State, who had publicly praised North Korea for its restraint just days before. And it was a stark reminder that the North Korea nuclear program is nowhere close to blown over. America's North Korea policy is failing. It's been failing for years across several presidents. But the risk of conflict has grown dramatically in this administration, in part because Trump has gotten himself into a public threat war with the world's most unpredictable and uncontrollable bully, and Trump's go-to play is to threaten that man more. Right? Trump is committing deterrence malpractice in four ways. Right. The first is making threats so obviously hollow that many of his advisors don't believe or support them. Right. First, there was the tweet about not letting North Korea get a nuclear weapon that could reach the United States. Kim has now tested a long-range missile capable of hitting Los Angeles and possibly reaching as far as Chicago, and claims the weapon it just tested could fit on such a missile. U.S. intelligence officials have indeed assessed that Pyongyang has succeeded in the difficult task of miniaturizing a nuclear warhead. Trump at that time warned that he was sending an armada steaming towards the Korean Peninsula, except that the armada was actually steaming in the opposite direction for a pre-planned exercise with the Australian Navy. More recently, Trump channeled his inner Kim Jong-un to warn that the real Kim Jong-un, that North Korea would be met with fire and fury like the world had never seen if it kept threatening the United States. So Kim made some actual fire and fury. George Shultz likes to say he learned one of his most important diplomatic lessons when he was a young Marine Corps recruit. Never point your rifle unless you intend to pull the trigger. The one iron law of deterrence theory, the one point on which nearly all scholars and policymakers agree, is the importance of credibility. The more you have it, the more you can coerce successfully. Getting others to do what you want them to do undermine your own credibility with one, and you risk undermining your credibility with many in the Game of Thrones. Nobody believes that Theon Greyjoy will do what he promises. Everybody believes Ramsay Bolton will. The same is true in real-life contests. For power across borders, researchers have found that countries will go to extraordinary lengths to preserve their credibility, even fighting wars they know they will lose, right? So that others in the future know they mean business. Right? Trump's second form of deterrence malpractice is that he conflates power with influence. Sure, the U.S.'s orders of magnitude more powerful than the Hermit Kingdom on every dimension. America ranks among the richest nations in the world. North Korea is among the poorest. America created the internet. North Korea has 28 websites. America has the world's most powerful military and spends more on defense annually than the next nations combined. North Korea has somewhere around 24 nuclear weapons and a starving populace. America has now troubled but historically strong alliances and relationships with more nations around the world than any other country. Right? North Korea has half a friend Beijing, but history tells us that sheer power is often not enough, right? The most powerful side in a contest of threats frequently doesn't win, right? The U.S. had more military, economic, and political power than Japan in 1941, Vietnam in 1965, Iraq and North Korea in 1990, and Pakistan after 9/11. And yet, American leaders were unsuccessful in preventing Japan's entry into World War II, gaining victory in Vietnam, keeping North Korea from leaving the nuclear non-proliferation treaty, convincing Iraq to withdraw from Kuwait without resorting to war, or winning Pakistan's full assistance in countering terrorism, including the hunt for Osama bin Laden. Right. Nobel laureate Tom Schilling famously called coercion the diplomacy of violence. Having the capacity to inflict violence is just the half of it, right? The other half, the diplomacy part, is harder, which leads to Trump's third type of duration malpractice. He talks too much. Effective deterrence is about signaling, often without words, that you really do mean what you say. In foreign policy, talk isn't cheap. It's dangerous. In any conflict, all sides want to make it look like they'll go to war even when they really don't want to. The incentive to bluff is high, and information about the other side's interests, resolve, and capabilities is imperfect, right? Isn't that what I said, right? Wars often occur through miscalculation and misperceived signals. Credible threats are hard to make with words alone, right? All parents know this. When my 3 kids were little, my husband and I would take them to dinner in a restaurant about once a week to practice restaurant etiquette. Our southern habits die hard, right? Each trip to manners camp would start off with a gentle reminder that good-mannered kids got to stay for dessert while the others would go home early. Even at ages 3, 6, and 8, the kids saw right through the parental cheap talk. We all drove in one car, so there was no way we could selectively send one child home without punishing the others. Then one day, after teaching a class on Schilling, I got an idea. Kids, tonight we're taking 2 cars to the restaurant. They got it immediately. I never had to say, yes, we really mean it, no manners, no dessert. The second car did the talking for me, right? That's what I mean about something falling into the sea when you launch it, right? Saying you have a nuclear missile that will reach America is not the same as it really being in existence yet either. That's what we can do, right? Same for both sides, really, right? Throughout the Cold War, nuclear deterrence theorists reasoned that costly moves were the key to making threats more credible. The chief challenge was convincing the Soviets that America actually would annihilate the world with nuclear weapons of attack, right? The threat of Armageddon, in turn, would keep the Soviets from striking in the first place. The only winnable nuclear war was a nuclear war that never happened, right? That's what I mean too, Mr. Trump, or whoever the hell you are, and talking to me now, right? American presidents from Truman to Reagan all use the same basic approach, using actions to speak more loudly than words. Ever wonder why there are so many U.S. forces in Germany, which numbered as many as 200,000 during the Cold War? These tripwire forces were stationed there to die, not just fight. All right. American military planners were worried the Soviets might not believe the U.S. would extend its nuclear umbrella over NATO in an actual conflict, and as a result, that the Soviets would be tempted to use their overwhelming conventional forces to invade, right? But if thousands of Americans died when the Soviet tanks rolled across Germany, the U.S. would have no choice. American involvement, including the use of nuclear weapons, would be guaranteed. The mutual assured destruction would hang in the balance. This costly signal made some sense in an insane Doctor Strangelove sort of way. And American leaders didn't need to say much. American troops said it all. Right? Making credible threats has gotten much harder as we have moved from the Cold War nuclear world of mutual assured destruction to a more complex threat landscape with cyber weapons that can inflict massive metric disruption. What makes threats credible today? I put this question to 250 foreign military officers over the past 2 years. Their answers were surprising. The number one ranked factor in threat credibility was not a country's willingness to risk soldiers' life, its superior power, or even its reputation for carrying out threats. Right? It was domestic political support for military action. Right? If these surveys results are any indication, President Trump is committing deterrence malpractice in a fourth way. By dividing the nation rather than uniting it, playing to our worst hatred and his strong base rather than bringing the country together in support of broader objectives like Obama tried to do, that served the nation's interest, Trump continued to hit all kinds of polling records. Right? The bad kind, in April, making his 100th day in office, he was the least popular president in modern times. Trump's handling of recent events in Charlottesville has accelerated the erosion of his public support, even among Republicans. Right? His current approval rating hovers at just 35%. Right? Domestic politics and foreign policy are intermediately connected. President Trump entered office with a weak hand to deal with North Korea, but his approach to deterrence has only made it weaker. Right? That's the point too, right? Now, when you're threatening someone, like the thing says, you're dividing the country, Mr. Trump, right? No one likes you, right? There again, too. Alright, this is all I'm reading. How Kim Jong-un came to power, right? Alright. Mm-hmm. Actions speak louder than words, Mr. Trump. Even I know that. And you are not supposed to know me either. You're the President of the United States. The President of the United States should not argue with a disabled veteran who's paranoid schizophrenic. That looks crazy. Hypothetically. Even if I can do real impersonations or not, who cares? Who cares? We all know what you do too, right? We've all heard the rumors too, right? We all know you might use it too, right? Who cares? Who cares? You can't prove who's using it or not. Either way. Unless you go into the studio yourself and know what's really for real. And I've never been in one. That's why I'm sure you're not going to do it on a tape deck, right? If it's real, you can do it on any tape deck, right? Not just your soundboard, really. Or a 7 board tape deck, right? Attached to it. Where you can do multiple tracks, too. It's only has one tape deck. They can only do one tape at a time, right? Right. If you have 7, you can do 7 at a time, right? Right. Well, I can't do all that, right? Alright, anyway. And I'm not attacking your money source either. I'm just teaching real music. Anyway, let's keep reading here. Newsweek published this story under the heading of Headless Beast, North Korea after Kim. On July 18th, 1994, after Kim Il-sung, then director of North Korea, died, in light of recent news involving North Korea and their threats against the U.S., Newsweek is republishing the story. For 46 years, he had endured presiding over the world's strangest, most isolated society with equal parts ruthlessness and cunning. Right? The consummate dictator, he had long since outlasted the men with whom he had come of age. Men now consigned to history, ash heap Stalin, who installed him, and Mao, his ally in one of the 20th century's bloodiest wars. The Cold War had ended, and even his friend Deng Xiaoping of China became a capitalist, right? And still there he was, right? His economy collapsing all around him, refusing to let the world treat him as some kind of crazy uncle in the attic. Kim Il-sung demanded that the world deal with him on his terms with a nuclear shell game that may have been his regime's only shot at salvation, right? That's what he made it do. The last month he used the nuclear card to get former President Jimmy Carter to come to North Korea's capital, Pyongyang, and pronounce him vigorous and ready to do business. If Washington would stop its nasty talk about sanctions, right, he proposed that what would have been a historic summit meeting with the enemy of the South, Republic of Korea, President Kim Jong-sam, right? Finally, he got the United States to come back to the table, and last Friday in Geneva, representatives of his government met with diplomats of the United States in talks that would mean the end of the isolation for Korea. Right? Awkward moment. Then stunningly, the end. The so-called great leader, father of dear leader, Kim Jong-il, his hair, died of what Pyongyang radio called a heart attack. The death of an 82-year-old man rarely qualifies as a shock, but just weeks ago, Kim had seemed alert and intelligent. Right? According to Carter, apparently sensing that there might be Suspicious of foul play, Pyongyang announced that the cause of death had been confirmed by a pathologist, right? Keeping up with this story and more about subscribing. Let's talk about that. President Clinton, who was barely out of diapers when Kim Il-sung's forces hurtled through Korea's demilitarized zone 44 years ago, got the news at 6. I guess I mean 6:08, because we say 6:08, there's a such thing. 6:08 a.m. on Saturday for Clinton, who was in Naples at an economic summit. It was an awkward moment. He expressed his condolences to Kim's family and said he hoped the current dialogue, restarted thanks to Kim Il-sung's leadership, would continue. Left unsaid, there undoubtedly had been days since the nuclear crisis with the North began 16 months ago when Bill Clinton had wished Kim Il-sung would go away. For the young president obsessed with domestic policy concerns, Kim had become a foreboding reminder that the world is a dangerous place. And yet, for all the torment he caused Bill Clinton, it just may be that his death has made the world even more dangerous, not less. For the time being, North Korea, possibly nuclear armed, and without its paramount leader, is effectively a headless beast. All right. How long might that be the case? If the late great leader now gets his posthumous wish, the world will watch communism's first successful dynastic succession. For 80 years, Kim groomed his son, 42-year-old Kim Jong-il, to succeed him. Now head of the armed forces and described by North Korean diplomats as running the day-to-day machinery of the government, Kim Jong-il is among the world's most shadowy figures. The most neutral term North Korea watchers use to describe him is eccentric, right? At worst. In the words of one U.S. diplomat, he is irrational, far more dangerous than his father, with no sense of how to deal with the forces and problems that surround him, all of which are formidable. No one in his right mind wants to see Kim Jong-il in charge of a nuclear-armed North Korea. That prospect is so daunting that some in the North Korean military are worrying those senior officials close to the Kim family are thought to be loyal to the sons. Younger officers may not be. They have chafed at being under the authority of the erratic Jong-il and would rebel at the prospect of his assuming supreme power. This is the beginning of the end, says Lee Young-hwa, a North Korean resident in Japan. At a lecture at Kansai University, the government will try to put the country together for a while, but great turmoil is on its way. The turmoil could take the form of a protracted power struggle if Kim Jong-il can't establish his authority immediately. At the least, says C.D. Harrison, senior associate of the Carnegie Endowment for Peace, who met Kim Il-sung last month, is likely that the younger Kim will have accommodate military leaders who are more hawkish on the nuclear standoff with the West. Right? That is why internal North Korean politics are now of critical importance. After their initial skepticism, right, following Carter's visit last month, right, administration officials have begun to believe that one major foreign policy problem was about to be removed. Kim Il Sung, they had been convinced was serious about resolving the impasses over the North's efforts to build nuclear weapons. That impression was reinforced during the first day of talk with the North in Geneva last week. The North Koreans operate in either deal-making mode or screw-you mode, said one source. Last week, they were in deal mode, right? Now, no one in Washington, Seoul, Tokyo, or Beijing has anything close to a firm grasp of what happens next. South Korean President Kim Jong-un convened an emergency cabinet meeting and increased the alert status of his troops. In Geneva on Saturday, the North postponed the second round of talks on the nuclear issue, but both governments left their negotiators in place, and the North did not rule out a quick resumption of the talks. Still, the Clinton administration's optimism had dissipated. Everyone's hoping for the best, but it's hard to discount less
retirement can be
satisfactory scenarios at this point, said a U.S. official. Don't let the left hand know what the right hand is doing. The stakes of a leadership crisis in the North are enormous. It could distract Pyongyang from resolving the nuclear impasse, deepening its formidable economic troubles and lead to unrest. And while few analysts doubt that the North's collapse is inevitable, no one, not the Chinese, the Japanese, or the South Koreans, want to see it happen soon. So Seoul, just 120 miles south of Pyongyang, the breakdown of order in the North doesn't conjure up joyous Berlin Wall-like scenes of reunification. Instead, it means streams of refugees and huge new economic burdens that South Korea, the 15th largest economy in the world, is in a position to bear. Right? Kim Il Sung's passing, one South Korea diplomat conceded, may well have brought that day closer. Right? As brutally tyrannical as he could be, Kim Il Sung retained political legitimacy after 46 years in power. One U.S. diplomat, it's not my job, right? A witnesses to everything he reads or sees or learns, right? That's all we can do, right? We can't even prove it to you because we just see it when other people do not, right? It's not to force you to see it with us. We can't do that either. But we do see things you don't want to deal with, right? That's all you can do, right? Impact of Kim's death on 22 million North Koreans as to the Kennedy assassination beneath the comical, the florid language North Korean party organs use in describing Kim, teacher of all Koreans, sunlight leader, inferior of all people. And the fact is that Kim Il-sung was the glue that held the society together, one U.S. official said. He was both feared and respected. That is not the case with his son. Right? Cold Peace, born in 1912. Kim Il-sung went to the Soviet Far East in the 1930s to train with Stalin's military during the war against Japan, which had occupied the Korean peninsula since 1910. The North makes much of Kim, the heroic soldier, but whether he actually fought against the Japanese is a matter of debate. What's clear is that Stalin believes Kim was untrustworthy, and after the Soviet invasion of the peninsula in 1945, installed him as the communist leader in the North, right? He was still only in his mid-30s, right? But within 5 years, he managed to persuade both Stalin and Mao Zedong that he could expand communism's reach in North Asia by invading defeating the South on June 25th, 1950. He launched a war that over its 3 years course would claim the lives of 33,650 Americans, 520,000 North Koreans, and 415,000 South Koreans, right? And placed names like Heartbreak Ridge in American military folklore, right? During the Cold Peace that ensued, Kim remained a ruthless and intractable enemy. In 1968, his navy seized the Pueblo, a U.S. intelligence ship that had sailed into the North's waters and held the crew hostage for 11 months. In 1988, a bomb planted by the North and apparently intended for South Korean President Chun Do-han exploded during a diplomatic meeting in Burma. Right? 17 South Korean officials were killed, and in 1987, a terrorist team trained in North Korea blew up a called Flight 858, killing 115. At home, Kim consolidated his authority by keeping the military on his side, right? Thanks in part to massive levels of assistance from the Soviet and the Chinese. Right? The North now was a formidable 1 million man army at the same time. He ruled through his personal brand of ideology known as Juche, or self-reliance. In no other communist regime did the cult of personality become as intense. Kim's picture is out everywhere in the North, and school children are taught that he is responsible for nothing less than the daily sunrise. No dissent is broached. It is the most tightly police regime imaginable, said one North Korean watcher. If there are cells of dissenters in school or in factories waiting around to seize at this moment, we don't know about them. Unwelcome burden, for Kim, his tightly controlled world began to erode with the end of the Cold War. In 1990, Mikhail Gorbachev opened diplomatic relations with South Korea, and soon Soviet checks stopped arriving. The Chinese too, though still publicly supportive of their old comrade, grew more irritated by his unwillingness to consider some of the economic reforms that Beijing adopted in the 1980s. Still, Kim's authority did not wane. Among many North Koreans, the fear and reverence endured, even as conditions worsened. Many North Korean watchers believed, however, that he knew the deteriorating economy was a time bomb, that not even the world's most efficient police state could hold back collapse if people were going hungry. Thus, he was led to the nerve-wracking game of nuclear blackmail. He had played with the world for the last 16 months, and that issue now falls into the uncertain hands of his son. You know what that means, right, Mr. Trump? Nuclear blackmail. It's a threat, whether you can carry it out or not. But the question is, are they doing it, or not? Again, threatening someone to do something. So I'm just I'm disabled. I ain't laughing. Alright, sorry, Mom. Speaker fell. Thus, he was led to the nerve-wracking game of nuclear blackmail. He had played with the world for the last 60 months, and that issue now falls into the uncertain hands of his son. To the day of his death, American officials were divided whether Kim was willing to deal away his nuclear program in return for diplomatic recognition and economic benefits. Some analysis point to speeches Kim recently made. For the first time, he acknowledged the country's economic difficulties and hinted that foreign trade might help. Others, particularly Pentagon and CIA analysis, believe he was taking Clinton for a ride, buying time to develop a weapon program by putting off International Atomic Energy Agency inspections and trying to negotiate with the U.S. with no intention of giving up what he had built, But senior U.S. State Department officials believe that in his final weeks, Kim made it clear that his intention was to resolve the nuclear crisis, in return for better relations and some economic aid, What he told Jimmy Carter amounts to his dying wish, said one U.S. officials last week. Whether that is true or not still matters, right? Precisely because Kim Jong-un does not command his father's Kim Jong-il does not command his father's authority, some U.S. analysis argue makes him unlikely to alter a course set by his father. Thus, if the younger Kim is to take over and stay in office, he would probably resume negotiations with the United States shortly after the funeral, and even reschedule the summit with Kim Young Sam. Clinton administration sources expect that to happen. They believe that the fears about Kim Jong-il may prove to be more hype than anything else. Nor are they necessarily convinced that a potentially destabilizing power struggle is imminent. The North Koreans, they argue, have had 20 years to prepare for this succession, right? And are now in the process of carrying it out. There are tantalizing signals that they actually have a plan here to carry out a succession, right? Says an administration aide, according to this view. Kim Il-sung moved in what turned out to be his last year to deal with the doubts about Kim Jong-il. The sudden re-emergence of Kim Il-sung's 71-year-old younger brother last December as a vice president, for example, may have been meant to reassure older military leaders and party caterers who are uncomfortable with the son, right? No wisdom, but parsing personnel moves in North Korea is a fool's game. It makes Soviet Kremlinology during the Cold War seem like child's play. To the Clinton administration's credit, its senior advisors seem to be focusing on what they know for sure, said a senior administration officials. Anybody who speaks with certainty about North Korea is not speaking with wisdom, right? For now, both U.S. and South Korean officials claim to be somewhat reassured by the fact that nothing in the days since Kim's death seemed out of the ordinary, right? The North did not put troops on alert. It announced Kim's death at 2 a.m. Friday without a clumsy Soviet-style attempt at a cover-up, right? And it said Kim Jong-il would head the committee arranging his father's July 17th funeral, an event to which no outside guests will be invited, right? But don't underestimate the North Koreans' ability to control their system, right? And Kim Jong-woo of Seoul Research Institute of National Reunification, right? Control, if it means stability and resolution to the looming nuclear threat, is precisely what Washington and Pyongyang's neighbors in East Asia desperately want, said one high-ranking U.S. official of Kim Jong-il. This succession has been debated for years. We've heard the stories about what a nut this guy is. Now there is nothing we can do but wait and see. Throughout its latest crisis with the West, they say Noah, but I think they mean North again. North Korea has consistently confounded the optimists. Now, after nearly 50 years in power, Kim Il-sung is calm, but the consequences of his time on Earth are still a dangerous work in progress. A work in progress named Kim Jong-il. Even in death, it seemed the world will have to deal with Mr. Kim on his terms. A nation's bloody trail. Kim Il-sung's life is inseparable from the history of North Korea. Virtually unknown in his country, he seized power with considerable help from the Soviet Union and China. Kim then spent years distancing himself from his patrons, building a nation whose self-reliance shared into pathological isolation. Kim's lifelong goal was to unite the Koreans by force, a bloody ambition that never succeeded, but which led his country into war, economic ruin, and a nuclear standoff. In 1946, picked by Stalin to lead North Korea, Kim, a guerrilla fighter against the Japanese in Manchuria during World War II, became chairman of North Korean Provisional People's Committee. In 1950, in an effort to reunify the two Koreas, Kim launched a surprise attack on the South with the help of the Soviet Union and later of Mao's 1 million volunteers. 1953, an armistice brought a halt to the North Korean War. Kim declared a victory and restructured the Communist Party to shore up his political base. 1960, caught in the middle of growing Sino-Soviet rifts, Kim began to separate himself from his patrons and to project himself as a leader of the non-aligned nations, including Indonesia. North Korea's economic started its slow decline. 1958, while patrolling the Sea of Japan, North Korean sailors seized an American intelligence vessel, the USS Pueblo, I guess that's how you say it, and held its crew, including Naval Commander Lloyd M. Butcher, for 11 months. In 1972, a new constitution completed Kim's move to one-man rule, and a cult of personality took root. 2 years later, he secretly named his son Kim Jong-il as his heir. In 1983, terrorists failed to assassinate the South Korean president while he visited Burma, but killed 17 government officials. In 1987, North Korean agent Mayumi was charged with planting bombs that destroyed a Korean airline jet that killed all 150 passengers and crews aboard. In 1993, Kim barred inspectors from visiting two suspected plutonium sites and threatened to withdraw from the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, sparking a 15-month showdown with the West. Now, anyone, like Jesus said, when you're talking about war, you have to count the cost first, right? How many soldiers do you have to attack them or not, right? Now, usually if you have more soldiers, it should be an easy victory, right? But if you have less, it's not, right? 1994, as the nuclear crisis escalated, Washington threatened sanctions, then offered high-level talks thanks to mediation by Jimmy Carter. Kim dies of a heart attack. How they square off. While the North has clearly superiority in sheer numbers, the South has more technically advanced firepower. North Korea has 520,000 army, and North Korea has a million, right? Navy. South Korea has 60,000 Navy. North Korea, 45,000. Air Force. South Korea has 53,000. North Korea, 82. Helicopters. South Korea has 603. North Korea, 290. Right? 445 fixed-wing aircraft. North Korea has 730. South Korea, 445. Surface combat vessels. North Korea has 326. South Korea, 53. Submarines. North Korea has 25. South Korea, 4. Tanks. North Korea has 4,200. South Korea, 1,800. Right? Or 1,800, right? Or probably 200, right? Anyway. Armored vehicles. North Korea has 2,500 or 2,500, and South Korea has 350,000. 3,500, and then 3,550, alright. Again, field artillery. North Korea has 9,080 or 9,800, right? South Korea has 4,540 or 4,540, right? U.S. Army, there's 26,950 U.S. Air Force. Sources, Congressional Research Service, Bloomberg, Newsweek. Right. Now, see, the point here is what? Right? We're all in a guessing game, right? What game is Un pulling, right? In the first place, right? Is he really trying to start a nuclear war with the U.S.? Why is his is it a serious attack or to bait us into a war with him? We don't know. We don't know. For sure. All we know is both Un and Trump are being bullies. That's all we know, right? That's all we can do, right? And that's just, what I'm talking about here. It ain't to make anyone do anything either way, right? I'm not even supposed to be known by anyone, right? I'm just a disabled veteran named Shayna Relief, right? What's your problem with me? What's your problem with me? Do I know you or something? Right? Am I supposed to know you or something? I'm a good impersonator because I learned to do it for real. What else can I tell you? Right? I don't know you. You don't know me, right? But you're acting all crazy towards someone you don't know, who was born with the name Shayna Relief, who learned to impersonate music on the radio and around him. But what's the problem with that? Anyone should be able to do that because imitation of music is a part of music too, or so as I do, right? And you're believing a lie yourself. So I mean, it's not my fault someone's lying to you about it. I didn't even know what was going on, right? I still don't know. Right. Supposed to be the major dick to me. That's all I know. That's all you do. Now, I had nothing to do with who started copyright infringement one way or another, right? Or what copyright even means to music, which it's not really legal in a way, too. Problem is, imitation is free to be done by anyone, right? And taught by anyone, right? Teaching is even allowed in it, too, right? That's all I'm doing. No. Now, if someone's trying to sell you a product, and they're lying about the product, and tell you no one can sing with it, right? That's crazy, right? I mean, whether it's saying Chain Ever Lee hypothetically or not, don't mean I'm messing with you about it, or the person who made it, right? But again, if you don't understand imitation is a serious form of flattery for a singer or an impersonator, whether a speaking voice or a singing voice, and that's always been a part of music, something's off in your head, man. Something wrong with you. You don't understand real music. You cannot imitate what you hear. You're a little tone deaf to nothing personal, right? You can hear sound through the machine or sound through whatever you're doing there, right? But it's still trying to imitate the human voice itself, right? Right. See what I mean there too? Right. And you're trying to make it the human is singing with or through it sounding better, right? Right. We all do that too. Well, some people can tune in to imitate others too, right? That's all I'm doing. It's my legal birth name. No one knew about it, right? But Bobby Everett Lee and Marcine Ruby Cuttrell, now, no, Arlene Kessler Crutchfield, whatever. Whatever's going on here, it ain't my fault. It's yours. I just got here like everyone else. My dad, for some reason, named me Shane Everett Lee, and he can't go back in time and change it. You can't eat it. You can't enter. If you have a problem with it, it's your problem, not mine. I'm doing everything I'm supposed to be able to do legally, and I'm not making a big deal. Some other asshole is, right? If you're in the FBI, you're not supposed to know about me, right? But is my legal birth name really Shane Everett Lee? Can a fake Shane Everett Lee get real IDs or have a birth certificate? No, I got one though, right? You want to see it? It's an old one, but it's still a birth certificate. There. And see, the problem is, I'm not lying. I don't even know you to lie to you, right? See, and that's with your career or anything like that. You sure you're using the machine to sequence, right? Shane Everett Lee, birth certificate. Live birth, right? Georgia Department of Public Health. Like I said, I was 16 pounds, 13 ounces, male, born at 10:48 p.m. Right, on November 3rd, 1979. Right. And you can't change the fact that I can imitate all the songs I learned on the radio, right? However I'm doing it, right? I don't know about it, right? I've never been in the studio, right? I was in the SCAD studio, but they only put me in the microphone part, right? And I don't know how they made the CD, but they did. And I was born in Candler General Hospital, right? There too, right? My dad is Bobby Everett Lee. My mom, Marcy Ruby Lakinson, right? And they live in Garden City, Chatham, Georgia, 18D Chatham City Apartments. Relationship and it was signed by the doctor, my mother, and the registered own signature, Champagne, Millen Gym or something like that. I don't know. It was signed November 11th, 1969, and filed November 18th, 1969, right? And this here is my 2016 version, right? I don't know if it's changed or not. It's not, so anyone can steal it or forge it, right? Like I said, but there's also a watermark and things like that on it too, right? All I'm doing is showing you I was live birth and born in Shannon Lee. It's not a fake document. I'm in Georgia, where I was born. My real birthday, right? All you can blame is Bobby Edward Lee because my mom one day me chimed it. Edward Lee or something like that, right? And he died in 1981, right? Y'all need to get over yourself, whatever your problem with me is. I don't know. Not the FBI, not copyright infringement. That's all bullshit. Anyway. It's not my problem, it's yours. It's yours. Even the copyright infringement allows you to teach legally. It's like a poem. A writer or a poet releases to the public, right? Certain things can be taught on, especially if you release it to the public. And you have other songs on the record people don't even hear, right? Except in the public forum, right? On the radio. That's like releasing a poem from a group of poems in a poetry book to teachers to teach from, right? Same principle. That's all you're doing there, right? I don't have a problem with it, right? Whatever problem you have, you're not even explaining to me, right? Clearly, I don't know what you're talking about, right? That's all I can say. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.